guys, this is just a video to walk y'all through part 2 of your final product proposal. So you've already gotten your thoughts out on paper, and hopefully we've thought through and narrowed it down to one solid idea. And it can even be, like we've talked about, part 1 of a larger idea. Like this can be the first step in a bigger product that you're working on, and that's absolutely okay. So this sheet is just a continuation of what you've done previously. So looking at the feedback that I've given you, that you've gotten from your friends, from forums, and hopefully from your family, from talking to them as well, you're gonna update what specifically you're looking at. So what path have you decided upon? And then for number 2, you've already decided what problem it is that you're trying to solve. Now, if you were narrowing it down between more than one, make sure you're writing down what problem you've picked. But you're going to need to back up why this is a problem that needs to be solved. For example, if you're working on ocean conservation, ocean life conservation, and you're wanting to make sure that we provide some data, some backup, some proof that this is a problem that exists, then we're going to need to cite a source. So we're looking for, like a government report, some type of statistic. You can look at other ocean conservation groups and take some numbers from them as well. Looking at their resources page on some of their sites can also help direct you to some of those original data pieces that they've used. But what resource are you going to use that shows your problem does exist and it is important, and that you're going to list there? And it can just be a link to whatever you're going to use. And then when you work on your product and you're gathering your information, you're trying to show what a big deal this is to other people, you can use these numbers to help advocate for your solution. The source is produced or managed by. That just means that who is owning that piece of information. Is it Harvard University that put out a study? Is it a government site? We're trying to show that it's not like my mom's blog, but it is a reputable owner of that data. So hopefully it's some university, a government, an organization, some type of educational organization, something like that, as the producer or manager of that data, that piece, that quote. And then from the source, what are you using? So, some of the work that you're going to be digging into is quite massive, and I'm not expecting you to read through some of these, very large reports, but pulling out key pieces. So like if you're looking at a research article, looking at the abstract and pulling out some information from there, if you're looking at other sites that pertain to your particular goal, you can see facts that they've pulled out as well. But what I'm looking for here is, to finish this sentence by from this source I'm using, and then add your specific data point. It can be more than one, but just at least one that you want to make sure that you're honing in on as you're working through this. And also this data piece, this quote, this, figure or chart, it should be helpful to you to really narrow in on this, and it will help you to say, okay, if there is, 20,000 pounds of plastic in the ocean per cubic meter, which would be insane, but and most of it, 80% of that ocean trash is plastic straws, then, you can tailor your project right now into being maybe mitigating that specific issue. So the numbers will support what work you're going to do, and it'll help you also, narrow in on how you can impact it and how you can measure that impact as well. For the third question, you're going to look at who will this product impact, whether that is, a community, whether that's a group. So looking at what group of people, what community is impacted by your work. And we're also looking for supporting documentation for these groups that you're pointing out. So if you're working on beach cleanup, then you're going to kind of dig into, how many people live in a beach community, perhaps, if you want to talk about it really impacting the lives of the people who live in those communities. And you can pull out that group of people. You can tell me who that, source of data is from, whether it's like census data or government data, And then what are you going to use? I think it's pulling out these pieces that are, um, you know, pieces of data that will really capture the attention of your audience. So 50 million people, live in coastal cities and are impacted by this, or 500,000 dolphins every year have this happen to them. You want to be specific and make sure that you're really honing in on how many people or animals, how many and what kind of group your product is impacting, so that people can see the impact level that they can have as well, and how far their efforts toward your final product, toward your goal, how far those efforts can go. You're going to look at filling out why this product is important, and we've talked about what is the problem, and then we want to prove that it exists, tell what group is impacted by that problem, and then why is it important. So people might not see sea turtles getting caught in those plastic rings to be an important issue. And I think sometimes we get caught in this idea that because it's important to us, it's important to others, and that's not always true. And so pulling in why and showing specific numbers, specific facts, if this is a place where you want to grab a sensational story to bring people in, to show them that your idea, what you want to do, is important. If you want to develop a product and develop, an invention, why is it an important invention? What is it going to do? Why is that product investable? Why do people, why should they get behind your idea? And so from the source, you could use a chart, you could use a picture with a quote. I think, use that sparingly, but if there really is an image that is speaking to you and your idea, feel free to include that and make sure you add a description of what you're including there. You can also add like a story if there's a quote from a specific, if we were donating pencils to a group of students and we had a quote from one of those kids about how, not having the right resources impacts their education, that can show people how important that work is that you're going to be doing, and that you're trying to include them in on as well, because we want them to understand the importance of it. So the number 5 is just looking at how you want to present your product. And I know that this can be quite a bit of a hang up for people. So if you want to be making like a advertisement video, if you're creating a website to educate people, if you're working on, maybe you're wanting to educate people about a specific environmental issue and you want to create a lesson that teachers can use in their classrooms, or you want to create an app that can show students, the impact of just one piece of litter in their daily lives, or maybe you want to create some type of tool where people can track the amount of garbage that they're creating as an individual, and it can, output what that bigger impact may be. So if you track what you do in a day and you're showing, you're throwing away 5 pounds of trash a day, and this is what it's impacting, and this is the bigger impact this many years down the road, maybe that type of resource will help people to decrease the amount of litter that they have. So it's just looking at how you want to compile it. It doesn't mean that, what you turn in as your final product is the end of your product. It doesn't mean you have to stop working on it. It just means it's going to be final for this class. So the word final, I take it with a grain of salt there. So it's the final version for this class that we're working toward, but it doesn't have to be this final piece. So just keep that in mind. And lastly, you're going to attach an email of what you've completed so far so I can take a look at it and add comments. If that draft is a Word doc, or if you're working on a video and it's a script, some type of draft so far that you have and that you want to send forward for some feedback. That's what you'll be submitting. And hopefully it's an email, just because I'm sure it's too big to fit within our site requirements. I'm excited to see what you all do this week, and please reach out with any questions, comments, or concerns, and I'm more than happy to help.